How's everybody doing today? I certainly hope you're doing well. You know what? It's that time again. Another edition of Story Time. Now, I'm going to give out a courtesy warning right now. If you're going to be going to sleep between an hour and a half or 2 hours from now, you might not want to listen to this video because it's extremely terrifying. Matter of fact, when I was putting it all together, getting all the characters and what they do and when and how and all that stuff, when I got done with it, I laid down to go to sleep and I creeped myself out. I mean, truly. So, if you retain information and you have an imagination, you might not want to check out this story time. It's scary. Okay? So, I like to let people know whether or not it's a true story. It is not a true story. Once again, it is a story in which I've created. The name of the story is called Doorunders. So let's go ahead and begin, shall we? I got a moth flying around in here. There was a woman by the name of Megan. She was 43 years of age, and she lived just outside of Houston, Texas. She was married to another 43-year-old person by the name of Lee. And even though they're married, they are separated. And Lee resides in the state of Washington. Now, both Lee and Megan, they have a daughter. And her name is Sarah. She's at the age of 18. She has just recently got out of school. She's got a job, but she is still living with her mother, Megan. Now, it was a Friday morning at around 7 a.m., and Megan is off to work. Because Megan works at a prison, actually, as an accountant. And she's very good at what she does. Matter of fact, Lee taught her everything that she knows. And you know what? To be quite honest, she's probably better at accounting than he is now. So she has a very valuable job. They need her and she needs that job. So as she is driving into work, she pulls into the employee parking lot and she looks off into the distance, in which she approaches the building to go into her section of the building to go to work. And there are massive amounts of police, Department of Homeland Security, FBI, and the United States military. And she's wondering what is going on. She's been working there for almost a decade, and she's never seen anything quite like it. I mean, sure, it's, you're going to see police officers and sheriffs in and out of a prison, of course, delivering prisoners and that. But, you're not going to see the United States military in a bunch of tape, and you can't even go in the building. I mean, it's just crazy. Now, the warden of the prison got on a bullhorn and notified all of the other employees that were in the parking lot at the time, early in the morning, that all non-essential personnel were to leave with pay on that specific day, and to come in Monday as to their normal business schedule. Because whatever was going on is going to be going on for quite a bit. So Megan was really concerned about that. And because she kind of wanted to know what the score was, she walked up to one of the sheriffs that was leaning up against the fence there, talking to another sheriff, and she asked them, "What is going on? And why are we all being sent home?" Well, the sheriff told her that 19 prisoners all died at the same time between 5 and 6 a.m. in their cells. And the very creepy part about it was that from their toes all the way up to their hip, all of their bones in their foot, ankle, and legs up to their hip were pulverized. And the skin was laying out on the floor. They too bled out in every single case. Wow. Quite fascinating. And she looked at the sheriff and she said, who would do such a thing? And how could it all happen at the same time? And the sheriff looked at her and said, who or what? She goes, I guess that's why the United States military is here? He goes, yeah. So she decided to leave there, go home with pay, which is an extreme rare incident. And she decided that maybe her and her daughter, Sarah, she'd pick her up at work, because Sarah's been working on a little job there. She's not in school anymore. She's going to pick up Sarah, and maybe they were going to have, some fun together and go to a matinee or something. So around 4 o'clock, she called up her daughter, Sarah, on the phone and asked her if she'd like to go to a matinee. Well, of course, Sarah's not going to say no. So that's what they planned on doing. Megan picked up Sarah at work, and they're headed off to the movies. And you know something? Megan didn't dare tell anybody about this because it's so bizarre. And she didn't want to frighten her daughter. And not only that, they're having a very big block party on Saturday, which would be the very next day. So she didn't want to spoil it for her. So as she's driving the car there, she has Megan there in the passenger side, and she comes up to a four-way stop. It's not a stop sign. It's not a stoplight. It's a stop sign. Four-way stop sign. And to the right-hand side, standing on the street, in a full suit and tie, clean-shaven, clean-cut, was a man there, probably in his mid-30s, with a cardboard sign around his neck. And what did that sign say? It said, "Save yourselves. Believe in the Doorunders." It's kind of strange. And he was screaming this at the top of his lungs. So as Megan is pulling through the intersection after she stopped, her daughter Sarah looked to her and said, "What are Doorunders?" Megan said to her, "Listen, that man is obviously crazy. I don't care if he's clean cut, clean shaven, wearing a suit, a tuxedo, it doesn't matter to me. And like I've told you a million times there, Sarah, crazy comes in many different forms. Many different age, shapes, sizes, colors. Crazy comes in rich, comes in poor. And like I've told you a million times, this is why you don't converse with strangers. Because the only people in life that really care about you are family and maybe your spouse." So Sarah just really didn't say anything. She just had that look into oblivion where she's just lost. Because it was quite strange. So both Megan and Sarah go to their matinee. They have a good old time too. They can hardly get through the matinee because they're talking about their days. Yeah. Sarah's talking about what she did at work and how much fun they're going to have tomorrow, which is going to be on Saturday. They're having the big old block party. And matter of fact, Lee has been invited by Megan from Washington State to participate. That would be Sarah's father. So as they leave the movie house and they go back to their house in preparation, they're getting all the deviled eggs ready. They're getting the hamburgers and hot dogs and the chicken, and they're getting everything ready for the party. Oh yeah, they're setting out all the chairs and that so it'd be ready for the morning. So they both lay their heads down. They go to sleep. They wake up about 9 o'clock in the morning, and boy, I tell you what, it is going to be an eventful day. The entire neighborhood is coming over to their house, and they're going to have a big old party. Not to mention, Lee's going to be there, Sarah's father, Megan's husband. But even though they're separated, they still kind of get along. They just They don't get along good enough to live together. You know what I mean. You've been there before. I've been there before. We've all been there. That's where they are. So, Lee flies in from Washington State. He's ready to go. And he strolls in about 10:30, knocks on the door. Because even though that's his house, you know, Megan is the one taking care of the property. Hey, how you, Lee? How you doing? Well, come on in. And of course, Sarah greets him as well. Then he peruses on his way to the backyard there, and as all the neighbors start trickling in. Oh, yeah. I tell you what, they got 2 barbecues going. They sure do. Kind of like Buster's on one of them. I'm just kidding, but for real, they got 2 barbecues going on. They got the hot dogs and the hamburgers, barbecue chicken. They got the potato salad, coleslaw, deviled eggs. Oh, those are the best, aren't they? Watermelon. They got everything there, boy. You got all the other family members that are playing the soccer and the kickball and volleyball in the backyard. Then you have the adults in their little pods, little groups, 3 or 4 at a time. There's probably 120 people there. Oh my God, it's massive. They got the music blaring. It's quite the party. I wish I was there, even though I wrote the story. So, as the day progresses, everyone is having a great time. And all the other neighbors are able to meet with all the other neighbors. But a lot of people already know about Megan and know about Lee. They just know them. They've lived in that neighborhood forever. So, come about 7 o'clock. It's starting to get a little dark out because, it's late summer, kind of like how it is now. And Megan just happened to look over and notice that Lee, her husband, even though they're separated, was giving quite the attention to this young lady. Pretty attractive young lady, too. Oh, she was furious. Because, you see, Megan had had just a little bit too much to drink. She gets a little bit mouthy when she starts drinking. She stomps over there. And she starts telling the young lady that Lee is talking to, oh, this guy's a terrible father, and this is why I left him. And then she's screaming and yelling, and she pushes up both of their drinks, and their drinks spill on the woman's blouse, and they spill on Lee's shirt. And Megan is screaming at the top of her lungs. And we're not talking about an everyday argument where a couple is arguing over maybe a towel wasn't folded properly or the dishes weren't done in the kitchen. No, this is a drag-out argument. Oh my gosh. And most of it is being done by Megan as she is getting busy on this guy. And all of the neighbors and all of Sarah's friends that she went to high school with and the friends that she works with, even now that she invited to the party, are watching this live. It's quite the embarrassment. So seeing that Lee knows that he is the one that has caused this, actually it was really Megan that caused all this mess. The conversation he was had with a young lady was honestly innocent, if you can imagine. So he decided he's going to leave. He's going to pack up. He's going to go back to his hotel. Because come Monday morning, he's got to be on a flight early Monday morning to go back to Washington State so he can go back to work. So here it is, about 8 p.m. on Saturday night. He gets to his hotel and he stays there. He doesn't want to leave. He's disgusted. He can't believe that his wife has treated him like that in front of all those people. It was quite embarrassing. And Sarah was infuriated at her mother for embarrassing her in front of all of her friends and the people she works with. So Sarah put her foot down. She said, you know something, Megan? Actually, she's talking to her mother. She goes, you know what? You can stay here at home alone because this is what you deserve, to be alone. I'm going to spend the night over at a friend's house. And she leaves abruptly. Now you have Lee gone, you have Sarah gone, and all the neighbors start to leave quickly, and they all leave. So come about 10 p.m., there's nobody left. It's only Megan by herself, and I tell you what, she's doing wine ping pong. Have you ever seen that? You got bourbon ping pong, you got beer ping pong, you got wine ping pong. There's a lot of ping ponging going on. And if you don't know what that means that you are so intoxicated, when you walk down the hall, you're like this. You're literally bouncing off the walls like ping pong. So Megan makes her way to her bedroom, and she falls asleep. All is well, or is it? 10 o'clock, Sunday morning. Sarah gets up at her friend's house, decides she's going to go home, take a shower. She's going to change, and she's going to go out to the mall with her friends. So she walks into her house that she's staying with, her mother, Megan. And as she's walking down the hall to go to her bedroom, on the left-hand side of the hall, she notices that her mother's door, her bedroom door, is closed, but the bottom of the door is bowed outward. In other words, the bottom of the door is bowed outward so profusely that it can be seen from down the hall. And the closer that she gets, she notices there's a monstrous pool of blood on the hardwood floor. And rather than opening that door, she calls 911. She's scared to death. She doesn't know what to think. She doesn't know what to do. And when the authorities get there, they find a scene that they have never seen in all their life. Once they opened the door, they found Megan all right. But from the tip of her toe all the way up to her hip, every one of her bones had been pulverized, and the skin had laid to the side, and she bled out, just like all those prisoners. The exact same thing. Except her door was closed, and from the inside it appeared that something or someone was trying to push their way out from the bottom part of the door. It was truly a horrific scene. Now, Lee got wind of this because Sarah, their daughter, called him. And he couldn't believe it. So rather than him getting in his rental car and traveling over to the house there to check it all out, he knew that the police were going to come and see him. They're going to pay him a visit because chances are they're going to accuse him of doing it. Because after all, he was the victim of that verbal assault by Megan the night before with 120 witnesses. So he stayed put. And that's exactly what happened. A couple of hours later, after the police had interviewed Sarah, their daughter, she did make mention that that argument indeed ensued. After the police talked to the neighbors, they too witnessed that argument. It was a absolute outrageous argument, like the worst you'd ever see, especially by the public. So what did they do? They decided that they were going to go over and interview Lee at his hotel. And that's what they did. And of course he denied it. Because he had nothing to do with it. Nothing. So as the investigators were at the scene, even hours later, trying to investigate and piece together what is going on, they brought in the FBI. And why did they bring in the FBI? Because Megan is a federal employee. She works for the Bureau of Prisons. And after all, she was there early on Friday morning to go to work at the prison herself as an accountant. And she had heard through the grapevine that 19 of those prisoners had died the same way. So, as the FBI agents are trying to mingle on and have a little chat with the other investigators, one of the sheriffs locally said to the FBI, "What could do this? I mean, the door was closed. How is it that the door was bowed out so profusely? It doesn't make sense. Who could have done this?" And then he looks to the FBI agent and he says, "Or what could have done this? Because we had the same exact incident happen at the prison. Something is going on here. What could have done this?" Insinuating that maybe it was some other source other than human. And of course, the FBI agent, he's scoffing. He's like, "Oh, come on, please. I've seen it all. I've been with the FBI for 30-something years, and I've seen everything. I've seen the slickest stuff go on. Sooner or later, we always get our perpetrator." Yeah. So don't hit me with that cockamamie nonsense about something. Okay, this was done probably by her husband. We just can't quite see it all, just quite yet. And then the sheriff said, "Well, what about the 19 prisoners at the prison?" Well, who knows? Who can say? I don't believe in any of that. So the investigation went on and on into the night. Oh, yeah. So he's creeping up on about 9:30 p.m. Sunday evening. The FBI agent goes home. And he's just hanging out with his wife. So it's no big deal. And they decide they're going to go to bed. Well, hell, it's about 11 o'clock, just like any other day. Well, I tell you what, that FBI agent, he has to wake up early in the morning, about 5 o'clock, to start his day at the office. So they're laying there in bed, and it's not quite 5 o'clock in the morning. It's probably late 4:55-ish, not quite 5 o'clock. And the FBI agent, one of his eyes kind of opens up, and he looks at the door because the bedroom door to their bedroom is closed. I mean, most people do that, right? Even if there's nobody else in the house, you just do it automatically. And of course, he's on the side closest to the door, right? And all of a sudden, he just happened to see out of one of his eyes this gray, milky substance with the consistency of maple syrup oozing underneath the door. And he really didn't think anything of it because he thought he was kind of in vertigo, you know what I mean? He's maybe kind of asleep, he's not really asleep, maybe he's dreaming, maybe he's not. So he just brushed it off psychologically that he's just dreaming. Well, a couple of minutes later go by, and the next thing he hears and sees in real life, in reality, not dreaming, is his wife is in front of the door, screaming her head off like the world is ending. Oh, yeah. Her foot is right up against the door, the bottom of the door, so her feet are up against the door. And she's being, as if she's being pulled through the door. And he's in disbelief. He can't hardly believe what he's seeing. And he looks down, and these hands and arms have grabbed her ankles, and they are pulling her, trying to pull her underneath the door. And the door is actually bending by the force of the force trying to pull her under the door. But of course she's not going to fit under the door. What is there, a gap about like this? How ridiculous. But this thing is so strong. And the skin of this thing looks sort of human, but more demonic. Because this stuff just oozed in the room. And then it kind of like came up the bedspread and grabbed that woman's ankles and dragged her over by the door and is trying to force her underneath the door. And in a panic, that FBI agent, he's got his wife, he's holding his wife like this up underneath her arms, and he's trying to tug to keep her being pulled through the door. And she is screaming like frantically, horrifically. I mean, if you even heard those screams from a distance, you'd be terrified. And before you knew it, you hear this noise. The force is pulling her body and grabbing a hold of her legs a little bit at a time, and all the bones are breaking. And the skin is just falling off. And this guy's terrified. And before you know it, he's holding his wife and he's sobbing at this point. Sobbing. Crying profusely. I mean, he can't even control himself. That she just lay limp. He gets up on the phone immediately, calls 911. The 911 operator can't even understand a syllable out of his mouth because he is so freaked out, flipped. They do a trace on the telephone number, dispatch as many officers there as possible. Everybody gets on the scene. They start investigating, trying to ask him what's going on, and he's in shock. He's done lost it. I mean, he is gone. So here we go again. Same sort of scenario. The door was bowed just at the bottom because this thing, this entity, this demonic creature, or whatever the hell it was, it didn't have a head, didn't have shoulders, didn't have legs or feet. It was just hands and arms that grabbed the person by the ankles, dragged him out of bed, and tried to pull him up underneath the door. Just like the 19 prisoners. So there's one thing that you might want to remember. The man with the sign on the corner, right? Believe in the Doorunders. Save yourself. Because if you don't believe in the Doorunders, bad things are going to happen to you. I'm Montagraph, and if you can't speak freely, you're simply not free.